Hi, I am so happy to be joining you virtually for today's Qicovery class. I wish I could be participating in person, but unfortunately this time doesn't work, so here we go. I've recorded a little message and just a little chat and then a little practice. So I've been pondering a lot about this recovery idea. I absolutely love what Todd and Stephen have been doing here. I just think it's tremendous to take a look at all facets of recovery. My experience is as a cancer survivor thriver, someone living with stage 4 cancer, and what recovery means to me. But in addition to that, I spent many years in a marriage with someone who struggled with addiction. And I've thought a lot about how to bring that part of my story and my experience to this environment, because I do believe I have a lot of richness from those reflections to share, and I don't see those experiences as completely separate from my cancer experience, because I do think a lot of our suffering and a lot of our disease is a reflection of our internalized emotional experience. That said, when it all began, when my relationship and my marriage began, we were young, and using substances and partying and just enjoying life in that way was not inappropriate for our age. And it took several years and a lot of disappointments, frustrations and confusions and self-blame to realize that it was a problem, and that it wasn't my expectations that were the problem, but that there was a problem. And I probably didn't even come to fully that conclusion until I had cancer the first time in 2017, and I began with a therapist who just to process the cancer, and she helped me see a little bit of what was going on in my life and how I was making all these arrangements and adaptations, and I was trying to work and organize my life around this person's suffering, because I felt like this is the disease. This is not a choice. It's not like he's just being inconsiderate to me, and I'm his wife and I'm his partner, and it's my joy and my obligation to stand by and support. But in doing so, I was sacrificing a lot of myself and my integrity and my dignity and my perception of self-worth. And what I was growing was a huge amount of resentment. Now, since we were divorced and I reinvented my life and my world, and then he unfortunately, about a little over a year ago, tragically passed away. So now my experience is a little bit different because it's all a memory. It's not an ongoing experience. And that said, my impetus to process this or share a whole lot of it publicly at this point in time is to not do that so much, even though I believe there's some richness in that experience that I would love to share and I would love to talk about in private forums, in a public forum, in terms of respect for all the other loved ones, all my 4 children and our family. There's a really fine line between processing your story and dragging someone through the mud, especially someone who is no longer able to stand for themselves. And I do hold a lot of grace for him and his experience, and I do hold a lot of love for our story and our history. And because he's gone, I think I'm able to release some of that resentment. So when I was thinking about what to talk about today, I realized I narrowed in on this concept of resentment, and specifically related to the anger and the frustration that I associate with the wood element. So what I'm going to focus on in the practice today is going to be a lot of the wood element. So since we're not really like in a conversation, I'm just going to kind of preface that and just maybe talk for a few more minutes about that. And then I have a poem I would like to share as well. Resentment is pervasive. And what I feel about the resentment as it relates to wood is that not only was I resenting this person and feeling resentment of being betrayed and being confused, and resentment that my life wasn't turning out the way it was supposed to be, but resentment of myself and my choices to stay in it. Because ultimately, those were my choices. And everybody processes this their own way. I have complete respect for that. But I would ultimately discover, when I really dug down into the heart of it, the person that I had to forgive the most, as cliche as it sounds, was myself. And forgiving myself for allowing myself to live in a way that compromised my self-worth, forgiving myself for not feeling worthy of a relationship that was also meeting my needs and not just trying to accommodate someone else's needs, and forgiving myself for spending all those years in anger and frustration, because that only perpetuated the experience we were having. As frustrated as I was, as resentful as I was, that perpetuated the shame and the behavior and kept us together locked in this cycle. So I cannot say this was something that he did. I cannot say this is something that cancer did to me, having cancer. I have to acknowledge the interplay and my role that engaged in the cycle that was a cycle of non-unity. Anytime we divert from the Tao, every time we forget our oneness and we are blinded by our separateness, we just can't be at peace. So that said, I'm going to read a poem. This is an interpretation of a Rumi poem that I really like. So this is a Coleman Barks interpretation of a Rumi poem, and this is from Coleman Barks' anthology, A Year with Rumi, Daily Readings, and it's titled, What's Not Here. I start out on this road, call it love or emptiness. I only know what's not here. Resentment seeds, back-scratching greed, worrying about outcome, fear of people. When a bird gets free, it does not go for remnants left on the bottom of the cage. Close by, I'm rain. Far off, a cloud of fire. I seem restless, but I am deeply at ease. Branches tremble. The roots are still. I am a universe in a handful of dirt, whole when totally demolished. Talk about choices does not apply to me. While intelligence considers options, I am somewhere lost in the wind. I think this is beautiful, especially if we're reflecting on the unification and the grounding that we receive from our wood element. So now, since we're not in person, I have the joy of taking you to my favorite spot in the park, and that's where we're going to do our Qigong practice today. So see you there. Welcome to my favorite park. This is one of the ways that I lean in to try to ground myself when I'm experiencing any emotions that seem out of control. I'm fortunate today, I'm in Chicago, so I don't always get weather like this, which makes it all the more precious when I do. But I do try to get my feet on the ground. And so what we're going to start with is opening up the joints. So if we just want to take a moment, if you could take off your shoes wherever you are, that's great. Probably not outside, but wherever you are, just try to feel whatever surface you're standing on. And just imagine that the sensory receptors of your feet are able to scan beyond the floor and the subfloor. And if you're higher up in a building, just feel as though your grounding forces are reaching for whatever earth is beneath your feet. And just take a moment to connect to that earth through the soles of your feet. And feel the security that's there, the security that's available. And feel what's not there. What's not there are any of the impermanent emotions, any of the attachments This is a route directly into source energy, into the union of the Tao, or however you like to visualize that which is more eternal and not part of our day-to-day drama. And it's essential if we want to shed our reactions to day-to-day drama. And I don't mean drama in a demeaning way. It's the things we need to act out to learn and to grow. So it's essential to be able to tap into that source that is without it. And now send an extension of your tailbone down into that source as well, and feel as that happens, your knees soften, your lumbars lengthen, and you can feel the oppositional floating of the top of your head as the spine elongates. Now let's begin inhaling as the arms float out to the sides. Right now the palms are down, and then softly press east and west so you feel your relative north-south and east-west, and then turn your hands to inhale and come up, and exhale softly through your lips, releasing any physical tension that you can easily clear away to begin the movement practice. Let's do it again the same way, as though you're magnetically drawing up the chi from the earth with your hands. Soft push, we might call push mountains. Winding, gathering, lifting. And with this exhalation, clear away any mental clutter that you don't need to draw into the practice today. And then one more time, breathing in, soft press, continuing, just breathe naturally. So as we reach the top here, now we exhale anything that your spirit can let go of. Just sending it out, clearing it away like a cloud. And now we're going to open the joints. So we're going to be I'm going to start with the foot. We're going to start with one foot. We'll just point and flex that foot. If you need to hold on to something, that's fine. So I'm going to be focusing in on the liver a lot, because I feel that liver can contain a lot of anger and resentment. And that's what I'm working on releasing right now. Circle the ankle. Circle it the other way. And then bring it down. The other foot will point and flex. Notice I have the rest of my leg relaxed, so just have the leg lightly suspended. You only need to suspend enough that your foot can move softly at the bottom of the lower leg. Now circle. And then circle the other way. And now bring that down. Now we're going to bring it a little behind you, and I'm going to put the top of my foot down and circle around this way. So we're getting over the top of the foot as well. And the other direction. Especially that big toe. Try to create some suppleness through the big toe, which is linked to our liver and our spleen. And let's do the other foot. It goes a little behind you. Smoothing out your breathing. And the other way. Good. And then bring that in. Now bring your knees together. Warm your hands a little bit. Because the tendons, so the liver rules our tendons and ligaments. So let's provide some flow, some fluid, some smoothness to our knees, to the tendons of our knees. And then placing your hands around the top of the kneecap, circle the knee joint. And now the other way. Good. Now open a bit, bend into your knees and just softly into the nests here, into the quad, the hip. I like to let out a little bit of tension here. And now we're going to knock on the sacrum. So I just want you to warm the sacrum a little bit first. So warm your hands again and just rub the sacrum. Part of our ability to nourish the wood is to have sufficient water to nourish the wood. So we're going to stimulate the kidneys. Part of that is the sacrum, beating the sacrum, and then continue that up. Feels really nice through the low back and the kidneys. Then we're going to imagine like a water pump that we're going to draw the energy up from the soles of our feet and up into our sacrum and our kidneys. So we're going to do a very small sacral rocking as we do this. I want you to put one hand just above your pubic bone, and the other hand I want you to find there's a little notch you can catch on your sacrum. I'd like you to feel that notch. So these are relatively away from each other, opposite each other. The sacrum point might be just a little bit higher. The knees are bent. And as we inhale, I want you to create a suction from the bubbling springs of the feet up the pelvic floor into the sacrum, into the kidneys, and let that cause a pelvic curl. Very small, just the tailbone level. And then exhale, release it back. Breathe in and out. So this is so small. I'm really focusing first on this lowest part and just feel like you're filling water balloons of the kidneys. Let's do 4 more. I'm going to turn back to the front. There's really no tension in the glutes or even tension in the abdominals here. If we want to talk about muscles, we're using the muscles of the pelvic floor and the psoas and the diaphragm. Now, with your tailbone, feel like you drop a weight off of your tailbone right between your feet. I like to picture a bed of sand down there, so there's something that it's sinking into. And then do a very small circle. Imagine you're creating a little bit of a whirlpool of water. And you can switch hands if your hands are getting tired in that one direction, that's fine. Just don't switch the pelvis yet. We're going to do about 9 times each direction. Let's do 2, 1. Other direction now. Keep it small. 2. Notice if there's parts that don't feel so circular. Give that your attention. That's good for aligning the hips and helping side to side and rotational imbalances through that lumbo-pelvic complex. 3, 2, 1. Good. And then just feel the weight of that tailbone drop down and shake it a little bit. Shake the tailbone. Like you're sending energy up your spine. And then let that relax. Now bring your hands up higher towards your back and now circle around at the waist level. So this part is in the belt meridian. We're just going to do 3 of these each direction. 2, 3. And now we'll go the other way. 1, 2, and 3. Good. Okay, now moving up to the shoulders, just a few. Gliding the shoulder blades around the rib cage, easy. And then the other way. all the shoulder joints. So as we stir, picture the ball and socket of the shoulder circling. Maybe the elbows can come together and really high up. Maybe it's smaller. You can get a lot out of just a little circle too. Just feeling the circulation. We're just lubricating the joints. Switch directions. We are lubricating, creating some flexibility and some resilience in our tendons as we're trying to create some resilience in our wood element. And now interlace the fingers and let the wrists, all the tender tendons and ligaments of the wrist and hand circulating. Now, if your brain can figure it out, switch directions. If not, let it go and just keep circulating your wrists. A few more times. And then the neck. So I like to start by dropping the head, and then maybe it's very small, but if it starts to get bigger, let your chest have a gentle rise and fall with it. It feels really nice to be doing this in the sun, I'll tell you that much. Switch directions. Let it drop and then bring it up. Now we're going to open up the spine. So take the feet a little wider. I'm going to turn to the side so you can see this one. As the arms come up, you're going to spin them this way. So the pinkies come towards your ears and you open your chest. And then when you exhale, you're going to spin them the other way. I pull the belly in towards the Mingmen, which is the space behind the navel here. And the hips go back as the arms go forward. I want you to elongate the spine. Inhale up and exhale. Breathe in and out. Breathe in and out. 2 more times. And come up. Okay, now we're going to open the legs. We're going to take one arm and I want you to bring it through, and you're going to turn your feet to bow and look up towards that hand. Then the back arm's going to oppose just a little bit. Then I want you to come down as though you're smoothing out the earth. And then bring it down. Okay, got that? We swing under, so it's like you're scooping up, and the other arm opposes back just a bit. So we're in a gentle lunge, spiral stretch. And then we smooth out the earth. You can get low if you like. It can be high. I just want you to feel like you're smoothing out a surface, and as you get to the end, you feel the extension from fingertip to fingertip before you bring it back and down. Gonna come up. And then and this is relating to how the earth controls the wood. We nourished the wood, nourished the wood with water. And now we're controlling it. We're creating some boundaries so our resentment or our anger or our frustration is more likely to become assertiveness or determination when it's in check with proper boundaries. Let's do one more time to each side. Step the legs in, breathe in, feel the deep grounding. We're going to now stretch our gallbladder and get into our liver a little bit more. So bring the arms out to the sides. We're going to step 1 foot behind. You can touch the floor or you can come to the outer edge. You can step far, you can step close. Hand comes to the back. Other hand's going to come, wind around the side of your head and into a side bend. Now it's imperative that you pull the liver itself back as you do this, so you don't end up in a back bend. So your hand is here. What I like to do is anchor the liver towards that back hand, even if it limits the stretch. It actually gets a more efficient contact with the channel, with the liver channel. We bring it out to the side. We step back, find that contact, and stretch. Do one more time to each side. And one thing I'm really enjoying here as I'm in a ring of trees is the idea that our trees, the parts you can see, there's an equal amount of tree beneath. So I'm picturing these trees that are around me, and they're behind you as well, just woven together underneath me, winding around each other and creating an entire web or cradle beneath me as I have the shade above me. And we're going to do one more, which is from one of the 5 element practices. I don't think I did this one last time I was with you, so hopefully it's new. We'll start with the feet together, and we're going to step out to the left. And as we do, we're going to draw the energy up from the big toe, up the liver channel towards the liver. So we step out, we draw the energy up, and then you lightly press and exhale down through the big toes. Inhale, float, and exhale, we step smoothly back in. And then we'll go to the other side. We breathe in and out. So notice as I'm stepping, I'm bent, so I can place my foot very intentionally. And then as I come back in, I'm also bent so I can float up at the end. Now I'm going to be quiet and allow you to get lost in this movement. Any upward rising, I guess I'm not going to be quiet, any upward rising chi, which our liver, when out of balance, rises upwards, headaches, flashes of anger. This is a wonderful way to ground the liver energy. Now I'm going to be quiet. Finish with just one more here. Step the feet open. Breathe in. Gathering peaceful chi, patient chi, forgiving chi, and bring it in. And let it seep through every tissue and every cell. We're going to do it again. Inhaling, understanding and forgiveness, and deeply forgiveness of yourself. Before you pass that forgiveness to whomever you need to forgive or wish to forgive, fill your own vessel with a deep and generous forgiveness for yourself and who you are. And one more time, just washing it through. Peace and forgiveness. Understanding and compassion. And as your hands come down and we place them on our belly and absorb this practice, just notice what is not here. Now what is here is joy and gratitude and peace. And the rest is not. Not when we're connected to our source. Thank you so much. I'm so glad to be here with you guys.